Welcome everyone to the captive audience. I am Kevin Hort. Is April 1st, April Fool's Day. And we're going to talk about who the fools really are today with our semi-regular guest host, the young Republican state chairman, Stephen Lloyd. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate whenever you have me on. It's always a good time.
And I appreciate that pool scene behind you. I use that sometimes too.
we guest houses, they're all over the place, right?
Well, you gotta think. Are we going to come up with some ones that are specific to the Portland metro area? Like squalor and tents, and or
I can point it out the window, but you won't like it.
that's right. Well, actually, that's the thing. Your backyard area in that virtual background, it could just be like a dozen feet outside of that is like some dude, lighting up a fentanyl dose or something, and it wouldn't actually be all that crazy. Not at this point.
Nope. It's pretty every day around here. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if we didn't really discuss about the very first thing we wanted to jump into, but on the way home today, I heard a story about a person unfortunately losing their life on a Max. It was either the Max or it was the light rail or one of the bus stops today. Basically, unprovoked attack. A gentleman said that he had been hearing voices and he grabbed somebody and he stabbed them and they lost their life today. Um, in my opinion, you've got TriMet who's responsible for the safety of the people on the bus because TriMet has seen fit to say that you're not allowed to carry concealed carry on their buses. So they've disarmed people, and then in addition to that, the Portland Police Bureau, while they do have a relationship with the mass transit system, I don't think that they nearly run. In my opinion, they should have either an undercover officer or a uniformed police officer at every single bus station. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
monitoring what's going on. Of course, we know that they decommissioned back in 2020 as part of the defunding and shutting down of units within the Portland Police. They shut down the transit police, and
Yeah.
that immediately led to a surge in all kinds of crime, because it was the chief way. I know that if you were looking for crime in Washington County, you found it near the Max line, because you would import it from Portland from people who didn't pay their fare, and then
Mhm.
they would just ride out to like Hillsboro and attack somebody, hop back on the Max, and disappear into the city. And so you're right. I mean, there's an element of responsibility that if that were a private entity, if it weren't a quasi government only, they'd be sued. They'd
Yeah.
be liable.
And in my opinion, that's one of the things that whenever we get our first Republican mayor, I would like to see that be one of the things that we push the TriMet off of, and I want to see, I want to see the city of Portland privatize their transportation. It'll be safer, it'll be cleaner, and companies will be liable for the safety. And in my opinion, I don't know if you heard about the law that they're trying to pass. I believe it's in Georgia, where it says that if anybody or if any business owner would like to disarm you before you enter the building, they are liable for your safety. So if you go to the movie theater and there is, let's say, a crazy person out there swinging a baseball bat and it hits one of their people inside of the building, well, then now the movie theater is liable for any injury or. And I totally agree with this. If you want to disarm people, then you need to be responsible for their safety.
And that is ultimately what the government is supposed to ensure. They don't have to actually be everywhere all the time. In fact, we really don't want that.
I don't want that.
But if the government can't deliver on that solemn promise of public safety, or in the case of the federal government, the common defense, um, then it's failed at its core mission, and whatever other stuff it's doing, should be set aside for sure. And
Absolutely.
in fact, we saw some of this play out over this last weekend. So, did you have a joyous and wonderful transgender visibility day yesterday?
I have to say, I don't get upset about too many things. I really don't. I live in Portland. It's like a zoo out there. It's like the best show on earth, in my opinion. Barnum and Bailey has nothing on us. But I have to tell you, as a Christian, I feel that the Christmas holiday and the Easter holiday are two of the highest holidays, and I I find it to be incredibly disrespectful to my religion and the all of the Christian religions, um, or all of the believers, for us to to have to try to or be this forced down our throat on a high holiday is completely disrespectful. It's completely disrespectful, and um, I feel like it's just completely inappropriate. It just shows where him and where Biden and Biden's administration's head is at, and I find it really interesting that they want to inject this type of language, this type of thoughts, this type of um, environment at the same time in the same place that the children are doing their Easter egg roll at the White House. I mean, I kind of feel like they are um, just completely tone deaf, and it's not because it's an accident. They're doing this
Um,
on purpose,
oh yeah,
and it's disgusting.
there's
And
365 days in a year,
I
and
mean,
they picked this one, which meant they knew it.
well, could you imagine? Let's say Kevin is the bad guy in the movie. Okay, you put your bad guy hat on. Could you think of a worse day to do this?
It's pretty diabolical, and it's also intended to change the subject away
Mhm.
from what the subject of Easter is. You know,
Yeah,
and so
the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, but they want to talk about trans rights. And don't get me wrong, I think as Republicans, we always need to stand up for every single person within society for their rights and all these different things. But that's not the conversation that they want to have. The conversation that they want to have is, hey, we got all these kids out here. Maybe these boys want to be little girls, and maybe these girls want to be little boys, and they want to start talking about bottom and top surgery, and they want to inject this narrative um, that destroys any form of sanctity, that takes away from the reverence that we're supposed to have at this time of year. And honestly, what it does is, for me, it tears at the fabric of the family, right? They want to drive division. And that's one thing that I feel that this administration has been very, very good, is truly dividing our country. Um, Brothers from sisters, mothers from husbands, just every which way that you possibly can. And it's truly disgraceful.
and I think that they have an agenda for society that is not compatible with with what they want society to be, or what it is actually,
Yeah.
which is a pluralistic society where people have different faiths and beliefs that are not beholden to or reporting to some sort of empowered political figure,
Hmm.
but that's the head of a government.
Right.
And what I concluded a long time ago is that the Democratic Party is the party of government, and increasingly they do way more than just want to grow it and see it have more power. They worship it.
I
It
know.
is the ultimate virtue to have a government program with some sort of high purpose that they deem to be a lofty, meaningful, moral purpose, and then simply to assign. They don't even have to accomplish anything. It's an empty religion. The government religion's an empty religion because it really doesn't accomplish even the things it sets out to do. But in this case, they engaged in a significant degree of symbolism on a day that already had great meaning in order to trash that
The,
day.
the greatest meeting.
Yeah.
The greatest meeting. I mean, I feel like if you take it at its fullness, I mean, we're all saved, and we I mean, and it's just like, let's divide people today. I couldn't think of anybody who, like, any way that you could be worse. And I'll say briefly, one of my coworkers who's a little spicier than me, he was saying that he believes that because of this, Joe Biden should be excommunicated from the Catholic Church. And I'm not a Catholic, but I have to say, I would hope that the Pope would consider it. Um, I, I know that we have a very progressive Pope right now, but it's crazy to me that these are the things that the United States of America, the President of the United States, felt like these are the things that he should elevate on this day. It's so disrespectful.
Yeah,
And yeah,
for someone who claims to be a devout Catholic, is heretical.
yeah.
In its profoundly heretical, and if somebody who is a member of the church, the Catholic Church, goes way out of their way in order to harm the church and other religions, and try to diminish them, then yeah, that's actually almost a no-brainer in the old excommunication handbook. But look, this guy is teetering on the edge of impeachment. Now excommunication.
Well, I mean, I honestly, I can't think of how you could do. I mean, I don't want to say how can you top this, but the election's coming up. I feel like they're going to pull the craziest things out of their bag of tricks. So strap in.
Well, there was a really good article in PJ Media that immediately caught my attention. It came out today, and if this were a different time in a different place with different experiences, you would have thought that this would almost be an April Fool's type of article. But it's entitled "Who Will Vote for a Walking Corpse?" And that's a great question, because it's totally obvious. Like, anybody who is sitting there saying, I saw Joe Biden the other day, he sure looked like he's got some vim and vigor, and boy, is he articulate. I mean, anybody who says that is delusional. And at this point, that group is growing smaller and smaller that can actually get away with that degree of delusion and still function as adults in our society. So it's obvious. Now, there are some people who say that they will still vote for a corpse
Yeah.
because they either hate Trump that much, and it's sad, because I think they hate Trump more than they love the country. That's where it's at, right?
I totally agree. And Kevin, when I think of like professional athletes or the best architects in the world or the best engineers in the world, I don't hear them describing those people, the people who are at the top of their game, right? Those sports athletes, the way that they reference Joe Biden, like the way that they talk about Joe Biden. Oh, he's spry. Oh, he's right on the ball. They're not. The way they talk about him is he's broke down, and like they're just being nice. And unfortunately, I have to tell you, as a freedom loving American, I want a president that is at the top of his game, not starting to slide, not a little bit of memory loss. Oh, a little bit of memory losses, but no, we need somebody who is at the absolute pinnacle of where they need to be, because the world that we live in is getting more and more dangerous. And as America becomes fractured more, it becomes easier to separate us, countrymen from countrymen. And the only way that our country will truly stand is if we stand together. And I think that our adversaries know it, and I think that they're just incentivized heads and tails about giving our opposition every tool that they can. And so I really hope that we can come together as a nation and do what we need to do when it comes to this election, because this is the most important election of our lives.
And I'm not concerned about his physical issues, because we had a president that was in a wheelchair. There's a governor in Texas that's in a wheelchair. They mentally fit, but maybe not physically But at the same time, it's all tied together because the more they try to pretend like he's not declining mentally, we also see the same downward trajectory on his physical side. It's connected. This article talks about how after Biden was first spotted sporting his snowboard-styled kicks, his handlers were forcing him to wear a new pair of lifestyle sneakers because he trips so much. He literally needs like a platform under each foot to provide greater stability. Well, there's a reason why that stability issue exists.
Yeah, there's neurological decline.
It is, and so what we have is we have a country that's being run by the handlers of somebody who doesn't know what's going on. And it's not just any job, because think, with the circumstances that Joe Biden has, would you hire somebody who presented the way he does, say, to head a Fortune 500 corporation?
Well,
would you put him in charge of, making life and death decisions on the front line of a military unit? Would you say, hey, this guy would make a great general to decide whether or not people are going to live or die on a moment's notice? Would you put him even in charge of a small town police department? It's getting to the point where, but this guy doesn't have any of those jobs. Those jobs are walk in the park compared to what he now has to do, the most grueling job there is, which takes perfectly healthy people and ages them 10 years in less than 4. This guy didn't even have his fastball when he was coming into office.
Well, I think talking about eggs, Biden's really our Humpty Dumpty, and I feel like he had his fall, and it takes literally all the king's horses and all the king's men to put Biden back together every single time that he gets in front of the camera, and hopefully those shoes help him balance out a little bit more. But to your point, it's just, if you look at the way that him and his son have done business in the past, they put Hunter Biden in charge of a natural gas company or sitting on a board of a natural gas company because of influence. And I would say no different than Joe Biden currently. He's willing to sell influence to do these things, and they're making deals back and forth. He's not working at all. He's not doing a real job. All he's doing is selling influence, I think. And this is a problem, because we need a president that not only does the job of the presidency, but also does the work of the American people, that enforces the Constitution, we need to have a president that upholds the laws, that forces, the Department of Justice to uphold the laws of the land, and really holds the feet to the fire of our representatives as well. I want a president that is strong enough, that is mentally capable enough, in order to make sure that our representatives are doing their job. And
we need a president that's strong enough and mentally aware enough to actually understand the circumstances that are occurring with national security, where there's really no, the Congress really funds this stuff, right? But then at that point, most of it's really in the hands of the president to execute. And it's one decision away from, like, we have to take action. Right. And I don't think he's capable of doing that. And, so just the other day, I got this reminder. My son had to make sure that he registered for the Selective Service. I didn't even realize or know.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Tell him thank you.
To
a proud nation.
Yeah. But I can tell you that I wasn't even sure if that still existed, because I did it in 85 when it was only maybe 12 years after the draft ended. I think 74 is when it ended, or 73. And, at the end of the Vietnam War. Yeah. But we still had to do that. And it was the law, and there were various penalties associated with it and so on. But I also realized this is a moment that I could say to him, well, you're an adult and you're a voter. This means that if we have a complete screw up president who fails to prevent, I should say, a massive and possibly losing war effort, that's how you're going to be called up. That's how it's going to happen. Because right now there is no draft, but it's there in place in the case of an emergency, right? So that's what's going to happen. And I said, so think about who you vote for president on that one, and who you talk to when you talk to them about it, because this might get their attention. A lot of kids think that this isn't an issue and they can just, vote for the walking corpse and it's fine. But really, if you look at how many wars there are now and how many potential wars we still are facing, in just 4 years, 4 years ago, we were at peace. The Middle East had Arabs and Israelis signing peace agreements. We didn't have any of these conflicts going on. We had routed ISIS. They were done. We were really in a privileged position in history, both, economically and in terms of global conflict. And it's been all pissed away by one guy being in charge who sent a message to the world within months after taking office. The way he handled Afghanistan, he was a disaster. He couldn't be taken seriously. And literally everything that's happened since then have been people saying, you know what? I think we can do this. I think we can test the United States. I think we can assume that their allies can't count on being able to confront any of this either. So I think we're going to try something. Deterrence was always about the belief that if somebody went too far, you knew you could count on the strength of the deterrent strength of the United States. Once they didn't believe that anymore, it's like a house of cards. It just collapsed.
Well, and I think that it's across the entire world we see it like that. I mean, I legitimately don't think that Israel and Gaza would be in an armed conflict right now if Trump was in office.
No,
I don't think so. I don't think that.
And Iran wouldn't be sponsoring it because they're.
Nope. Well, we wouldn't have given them the billions of dollars back.
That's right. And lifted all those sanctions on them. No, none of that would have happened. Iran wouldn't have dared do it. And they probably would have faced some consequences long ago that would have even prevented them from thinking they could escalate to this point.
North Korea wouldn't be pulling their garbage again. I mean, they're constantly threatening us now with a nuclear annihilation. And if we don't do what the chubby little rocket man says, but I want to go back to what you were saying, talking about the selective service and things like that. I think that it's super, super important, especially for those young people, especially considering most young people nowadays, they say if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have heart. And if you're not a Republican by the time you start your own first business, then you don't have a brain. But I have to tell you, I think that a large portion of our young people are coming up. They're being polled as being more conservative than what we've seen in a very, very long time.
Backlash,
yeah. Well, and for me personally, I love the counterculture of it all. What would be the one thing that could piss off your hippie parents in Portland? Oh, I know. Register Republican.
Yeah. And then start wearing like Trump paraphernalia to family.
Oh my God.
And people lose their mind.
You better get that off, or you get out of my house, my wigwam, my teepee, whatever. The car that we live under this bridge, the Burnside Bridge.
Well, I think that it's a cultural phenomenon, but it's more than that too, because right now we're looking at it's really hard to put this genie back in the bottle. Once you have all these conflicts, cleaning this up may take the entire next term of a president, assuming it's not the same president.
I don't think it will take that long. I really don't.
Well, no, I think you can improve it dramatically, but I can tell you that it takes a while to restore the belief in deterrence. You still will have people say, you know what, but I bet I could still do this. I saw this. Well, Reagan had this because everybody knew Reagan was really serious. And when he came in, Jimmy Carter had convinced the Soviet Union and half the malign countries around the world that the United States was a paper tiger and actually was kind of, navel gazing and couldn't do anything. Ronald Reagan came back in there. First, he changed what was being said. He also changed then what was being done. And he changed what they were prepared to do. And it took like 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why over 2 terms we finally saw the dividends of it in his second term, where there was like, you know, peace agreements with the Soviet Union, the beginnings of uh, the glasnost and perestroika, and Eastern Europe starting to come out from the shadow.
All the
E-
stuff.
even things starting to loosen up in places like China, and yet that took all of that term and a second term to see the results. Now, I agree that the difference here is that they all know that if Trump says something, he means it, right? So they know that if he says,
Cross that line, we sent tomahawks. Boom.
yeah. So it's not, this mealy mouthed, let's do as little as we can. Because I think that's one of the things about Ukraine. It's like a lot of aid's been sent there, but if you deliver the aid the way the Biden administration did it over 2 years, yeah, those guys they basically just are always on the edge of losing instead of able to turn the tide. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be naming a lot of buildings after Biden in Kyiv if they survive all this stuff, because that building is not safe.
Right.
It's gonna be targeted, and it's gonna collapse, unless it's a place for people that are in senility, sitting in a nursing home. They might call it the Biden nursing home. Actually, they should probably call the place where they are going to have like hundreds of thousands of maimed and injured people recovering from those injuries.
Yeah.
Those should probably be named after Biden, because that's totally appropriate there. Except I don't even think they could bring themselves to do it. He is really, if he this is an election not just about you're going to get one president or the other, or one set of policies or the other. So what are we, a Biden America?
Well,
Is that what we are?
I want to kind of bridge this conversation over to the bridge clap real quick, because I just see that the failures are just cascading all the way across our country in everything that this administration touches.
Yeah, it all goes wrong.
Buttigieg, who's in charge of the transportation, I believe it's what is it?
He's
The Department of
transportation secretary. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they sent cranes and things like this in order to respond to the bridge collapse that happened over the weekend. Is that correct? The weekend ago?
Yeah.
Feels like it's been down forever already. But, I grew up in a military family. I was really, really lucky to grow up in that way. And I felt like, growing up in the 90s, that there wasn't anything that America couldn't do. And I think that this bridge incident would have been a great opportunity for us to be able to show the rest of the world that it's just a little bridge, and we could totally get this thing out and a new one slapped in just as fast as we physically possibly could. And it just feels like they're really slow walking this thing, just like they're slow walking every single other project. And there was supposed to be Build Back Better, and it was supposed to be shovel ready jobs and all this nonsense. And I just feel like it's just a pack of just empty promises.
Well,
Like,
there's some things they aren't slow walking, but they're trying to make sure that people don't notice it. Frog in the frying pan style, such as the offshore wind mills that they're building. There's like 18 things wrong with those offshore windmills. So off the coast of Oregon, they want to put it in 2 different locations in a depth of water they've never done before. Massive. They're rushing to lease basically both of our coastlines for these windmills. And they don't know what they're going to do at the end of the lifespan of these windmills. They don't even know how they're going to repair them if they get broken. They are not certified safe for a really severe storm, which happens every 20 to 30 years. So if that comes through, boom, they're all destroyed, along with the electricity they're supposed to generate. And then it turns out, I just saw this today, Virginia residents say vibration from construction of offshore wind project causes cracks in walls on shore.
Mm-hmm.
So they are literally discovering, it's like ready, fire, aim, with all of this. And you know why they're doing it? Because there's all this money that's been put out there by the Inflation Reduction Act, which did nothing for inflation. Everybody called it in the beginning. It was the Green New Deal, and they just called it something to make people feel like, oh, they're doing something about inflation, you know. And morons believe this because they're really like, you know, when they're plugged into MSLSD, that's what they're getting. You know, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds news, and they don't know what's going on. But it turns out that all of this stuff that they're doing is because they've got these giant pools of money that expire if they don't reach a certain level of development. So on the coast of Oregon, they're saying to people, even when Democrat legislators are saying, please give them more time to give feedback. I don't know why more feedback is going to help, because they ignored all the feedback they already got.
They completely ignored it. I know geologists. I've heard there was a geologist talking on a podcast I was listening to, talking about these offshore wind farms on the Oregon coast specifically, and they were talking about how our the plate that Oregon sits on, it's really under a lot of tension right now. It's really under a lot of tension, and the Cascadia subduction event, that could happen literally any day. It could happen minutes from now, for all we know. But it's under a tremendous amount of tension, and what's going to happen is they need to moor these wind turbines in a couple of different ways. They can't just anchor them down with like large weights. They actually have to anchor them into the subsurface, and we don't know what the effect is. Like you said, nobody has gone this deep. The Oregon coast has a very, very steep drop off, and the areas that drop off is also a migratory place for the whales that migrate up and down the west coast. And I have to say, I mean, I believe in conservation, and I've always loved the Oregon coast and our marine environment. I wanted to grow up to be a marine biologist like every kid did who grew up around the water. But when we think about these windmills going in, it completely changes the marine environment that's around there. Schooling fish school underneath of these types of platforms, and then it actually causes eddy currents that actually change the way that the whales have to navigate around these things. And in my opinion, the whale populations are not in a place where they need to be stressed by any more things. And we've got so much. I mean, and I worked in the oil and gas industry before, and I would feel the same way about offshore drilling on the Oregon coast, on the California coast, on the West Coast, as I would about these windmills. It's just a bad idea, and it's unnecessary. If you want good, clean, renewable energy, we have all of the dams up and down the Columbia River Gorge.
Well, water and gravity, but they're taking them out.
They absolutely are.
And in all honesty, if somebody says all I care about is reducing CO2 emissions, well, then you should be in favor of natural gas, which has done more of that than anything. And it's the reason why the United States has actually met all these targets that were set out, and why Europe hasn't. And China is doing the opposite. They're not even trying. No, they don't care, because they know it's a scam, and they know it's a scam that works for them. And so, but here's another thing: the entire seafood industry, along the coast, is in open revolt against this. I actually got to read a press release today from a group called the Midwater Trawlers Cooperative. It just represents all of the people that are the fishing industry off of the coast here of Oregon. And the director, Heather Mann, said that the announcement by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to just move forward with these windmills, and of course ultimately end the feedback period, which was being ignored anyway, said, "This is a slap in the face of many stakeholders who have been trying to engage the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management for the last few years. BOEM, that's the acronym for it, is a rogue federal agency pushing a dangerous agenda largely unchecked. BOEM will stop at nothing until our oceans are littered with wind turbines, all to just meet an arbitrary political deadline." You know what that political deadline is?
The end of the election.
It's the election. And actually, in the case of the people who are playing the long game, it's the possibility that this will all go away after the election, one way or the other, because they won't have the president they need to order it all to happen. And this is with even Democrats saying they should maybe halt this project or slow it down. And you know what? That's why we need somebody else to replace those people. Like Val Hoyle's got to go, because Val Hoyle, she's actually she's just a career politician who figured the slow walking stuff.
Yeah.
Always do as little as you can, speak out as late as you can, say as little as you can, because she's really for it. And she just knows that there's a lot of people that she needs votes from who are super angry about it.
Right.
We're fortunate that we have that district today. It was just described by Roll Call magazine, the 4th district, which I think, they've got one very strong candidate, certainly in that district, running on the Republican side. And this is part of the reason for this statement. Roll Call magazine said GOP strategists are more excited about taking on Democrat Representative Val Hoyle in the 4th district in Southern Oregon. And they were describing that relative to the 6th district, which is kind of a rematch, a repeat of 2022 with Mike Erickson and Andrea Salinas. Yeah. And that's just, they just rate things. But this is, so there's contained within all this stuff that we're talking about, which is outrageous and annoying, might be the seeds of a complete reversal of all this garbage that's going on.
I truly, truly believe so. I hope that that everybody out there listening, you grab everybody that you know and you go out to those candidates and you give them as much help as we possibly can to win these elections as we go into the election season. Educate yourself as much about the things that you care about, and really, try something new. Try working in the political realm, and you may just find it's one of the coolest hobbies that you've ever had. And I really want you guys to go out there and do that, because Kevin does an awesome job, but unfortunately he only gets 24 hours in the day. He's working on that 25th, but there's a lot of good negotiations about it. So we need you guys' help too.
Yeah, I need a time warp. By the way, here's a great headline too. ISIS is at war with the world again, thanks to Biden and Putin, and it's true.
Yep.
Actually,
100%.
They're at war with, and ISIS was done, and everybody. That's the thing. We cannot take for granted how hard it is to accomplish the things that we had accomplished, and I guess it was necessary for everybody to see it undone. The United States as a whole is being undone. But here's another great headline. Fake Catholic Joe Biden tried to cancel Easter, but Jesus won. That's great too, isn't it?
Yep. 100%. He won. It's kind of crazy, all the stuff that's going on. One of the things that's kind of caught my eyes, I don't know, do you like rumors? Do you like rumors, Kevin?
I'll entertain them and then see if they manifest. Yes.
Okay. Well, the rumor that I like is that Tina Kotek and all of the people that were working for her, something happened. They've all decided to step down and step away. I don't know if you've talked to this with your viewers yet, but all of her people just decided to kind of walk out of the office and not really talk about why. But from people that I know in the Capitol, she can be a little mean. And I wonder if everything came to the head. And
I have not heard a single person describe her as a nice person. They've said other things that they thought were complimentary, and I'm talking about Democrats. I've heard them say complimentary things about her, but they were mostly about how tough she is, and also, she was an inside the machine politician who stayed on top of that machine for 10 years. So
Well,
you don't do that in Oregon without sharp elbows and a nasty temper if you're a
I have
Democrat.
to tell you though, Kevin, Tina Kotek actually won a very distinguished award from the Young Republicans of Oregon. We're starting to do awards, and one of the awards that we have that we awarded to Tina Kotek, unfortunately, she didn't come to our awards dinner. It was the award for bringing more young Republicans into the organization than anybody uh, this year. So she's
She
very,
was
very good for
the Young
Republicans.
Republican Recruitment Award.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tina. We appreciate all the hard work and effort. You do a great job to grow our organization. We would appreciate it if you take a day off, though.
Well, and they're just Tina and the whole bunch have gone way overboard.
Oh, yeah.
Here's another example. So equity-based algebra is as bad as you imagine it to be. This just came out on Saturday, and there was a 100-page anonymous complaint that was filed, and it was because of this California math framework. We're
Yep.
literally teaching kids incorrect math.
Yep, 100%.
And calling it education. This is gonna do damage for just decades of people trying to recover from this.
It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. Like anytime that you hear about either Tina Kotek or the state of Oregon talking about DEI or equity and inclusion and all of these different things, it's just racism, straight up. It's nothing else. And I can't wait till DEI faces the same fate as what was it called in college, where they would give college scholarships out to certain people if they were the correct color or if they had the correct sex.
Yeah.
What was that called?
Quota based.
Yeah.
Scholarships.
And I'm so happy that people are starting to realize that this is racist and this is, in my opinion, frankly, anti-American. And we're going to see DEI be the exact same way. It's a hateful and bigoted perspective, and it doesn't focus on the individual and individual achievement. And when it comes to things like this type of math, this new math, this California math, all these different things, in my opinion, affirmative action. Thank you, Nicholas Middleton. There's a shout out for you.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action. There you go. You win a gold star from the Young Republicans today. But ultimately, I think what we're gonna realize is this is gonna have such a bad effect on not only the youth, but if you think that people are bad at counting back change at Starbucks, it's gonna be so much worse when they're like, 4 + 4 is 24. I mean, maybe it'll work out in your favor once in a while, but just expect that tip number is just going to keep going up and up and up. So hold on.
Well, it might be a new source of inflation, which is I can't calculate stuff. They'll actually probably need some device to do it for them, and then when somebody gets you to, when it's there will be a special woke bonus, like TikTok is more than happy to calculate your tip for you. So here's the woke bonus.
And do you know how you know it's accurate, Kevin? It's the same software that we use for our vote counting machines.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, and then
thanks, Secretary of State. You're the best.
I think it was Stalin who said it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes. And he knew that game. Yeah. Well, I think that the whole thing with the first spouse is really blowing up in our face, because that was, I don't know where she thought of it, where she came up with it, but this is not what they hired Tina Kotek to do, which is to create drama and consternation and chaos by virtue signaling about some issue. But instead, she was the one. I mean, imagine if she ran. See, I always like to take the things Democrats actually do and say, what if you ran an ad back in 2022 that said what they were actually going to do?
Yeah.
Like how proud she was to create the office of first spouse. And as staffers throw down their um, throw down their name tags and march out the door, and talk about how this is what I promise you. I will make sure that the first spouse is well funded.
Thank goodness. I was
Run
really
that.
concerned about it.
Yeah.
We just don't want the first spouse to not have all of the things that she wants, not support all of the things that she wants on her own personal time. No, no, no. We want the taxpayers to pay for that.
This is
And
all about her personal struggle. It's not about the
well,
fact that the state is in chaos and has
absolutely.
multiple emergencies declared, by the way.
Well, and ultimately, my question is what is she constitutionally empowered to do? And if it's nothing, then she doesn't have an office. And that's how it should be in literally every single office across the land. If you have a made up job, here's the door. We appreciate it, and you should be a volunteer in an organization that you really care about, but it should be on your dime, not the taxpayers. And unfortunately, I've never met Amy. I bet she's a wonderful person, but she doesn't need to be employed by me. And so, therefore, I would be more than happy to go ahead and give her her pink slip. You're fired, Amy. I don't need you as the office of the first lady.
Well, and then this is somebody who literally commands billions in funds that go to a constellation of nonprofits. You mean one of those nonprofits couldn't maybe find some funding to hire the first spouse to go and just do symbolic virtue signaling stuff? I mean, that's what so many of these nonprofits are. There are people making six figures doing doing just like, um, you know, uh, climate equity, going around and talking to people about climate equity in the streets as they smoke fentanyl, and getting paid six figures to do it. And
Right.
a secure income stream that comes straight from the taxpayers. And they couldn't find a make work job amongst that constellation of nonprofits for the first spouse. No, they had to put this person in an office that doesn't exist and make
Well,
workers report to them.
what I think that we should do is we should be very cognizant and we should pay a lot of attention to what the office of the first lady does, because she is opening herself up into all sorts of liability. She may not realize it, but now every single email she sends, every telephone call, every text message is now available for FOIA requests. It's
Yeah.
time for us to absolutely follow everything the office of the first lady does. And the moment she so much as spends a wrong dime on something, it's waste, fraud, and abuse. But my question is how do you get rid of an unelected bureaucrat that the governor? I mean, my question is can the governor just create BS jobs left and right like this? Because
She
this is
thinks she can.
unacceptable.
She thinks
Well,
she can.
I don't know in the Constitution where it says this.
It doesn't, but a lot of things aren't in the Constitution that are being applied to us and utilized, and we do need to restore that. We need to actually make a special effort to do that. And by the way, I want to remind everybody that you need to register with a political party by April 30th if you want to see and be able to vote for nominees like presidential candidates or candidates for Congress,
Mm-hmm.
partisan offices, state representatives, state senators. If you want those to appear on your ballot, there's a lot of people that I think don't realize that they're actually not registered with a party, and they think they are because they have how they vote in the general election, and that does actually happen in other states. You just whatever way you like, you get a ballot for like Republican candidates, and then they know you're a Republican. We actually have registration before they mail you the ballot, and that's how they know which ballot to mail you. So they don't mail you the ones you can't vote for, because you can only vote for the ones for the party that you're registered with. Well, April 30th is that deadline, and if we want to move the needle, you got to actually, register appropriately. And you know what? It takes all of 5 seconds to do it. You literally go to OregonVotes.gov, click on My Vote, and you can change it that fast.
And it's really, really easy to do, like Kevin said. And anybody can do it. You can register your friends. My suggestion is you go to work and you bring your phone and you say, hey, do you want to check your party affiliation right now? Because if you changed your driver's license recently, sometimes the algorithm at the DMV kicks you back to an NAV.
Yeah. It
So,
defaults back to that. Right.
so my suggestion is, even if you know you're registered Republican, I've been Republican since Ronald Reagan, whatever it is, since Abraham Lincoln for some, just teasing out there. Uh, Go out there, register, double check your party affiliation, because uh, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, whatever you are, make sure that you're registered for the correct party. Okay, go out there and make sure they get that done.
By the way, to your point about Tina Kotek, there's actually an article. You know, when the Oregonian is speculating that the success that Tina Kotek might be looking at might be derailed by the exodus of aides that she has assisting her with that. They don't they don't do articles like that unless they actually think there might be some truth to it, right?
Well, I mean, my question when it comes to all these people leaving, are they leaving because they were involved with Moda or La Moda? I'm sorry, La Moda, the marijuana
Oh
company
yeah,
that
there's
got our
the official
Secretary of State?
reason and then the
The
real
unofficial
reason.
reason.
Yeah.
Like, did they leave because it's a personal critique against the first lady? I mean, there's about 5 different things that I can point to that I don't have a good answer for, and nobody else does either. And I don't want to be accused of slander or anything else, but I personally think that goes out to all you press people out there. We have a right to know as citizens why these people are leaving office and why nobody's talking about it. And I think that these are plain and simple truths that we should be looking for. And why did these people leave? I was reading one of these articles, and I think it was on the Oregon Catalyst. Media turns to Kotek and demands answers, and they were talking about how much one of her aides makes for like per month for her salary for being a scheduler. And I know schedulers are super important in executive positions. I know that it is not an easy job, but I looked at it and I was like, $11,900 a month. That's a pretty good paycheck, especially for all the benefits they plop on top of that, working for the state, working for the governor's office. And I'm just like, holy smokes, that is way too much money.
Well, I know that some positions might have to actually compete in the marketplace for people, but I don't think schedulers of that variety are making that kind of bank in the private employment workplace. And so that's the thing. Government service isn't supposed to be grossly compensatory and lucrative. It is really, if anything, the only justification is that in order to hire people, you needed to compete with the private market to attract them. But beyond that,
my personal opinion is any government office that you get a job working for should be the average of your tax base across the entire thing. The maximum you can make is the average across. So you are incentivized to bring business and to have as wealthy, happy people in your community as you possibly can. So if you've got a ton of hardworking people in your community, you have good hardworking wages. And as somebody who gets into politics to represent the people, you can represent them a lot easier when you're going to the same grocery store.
See it their way. Yeah. I mean, that is, I'm of two minds also about term limits.
Yeah,
I think actually, on the one hand, having elected representatives who are transitory, but bureaucracies that are permanent sometimes empowers the bureaucracy. That's one concern. I also think that it has to be an even playing field.
Right.
Self-imposed term limits don't often work out, only because then the Democrats stay in there forever, and you end up with Dianne Feinsteins and Nancy Pelosi's and these like dinosaurs that literally stay in until they die or melt. I think Nancy's more the melt one. in office. But on the other hand, it would be good if the people that were making these laws had to go live under them. And that was the idea of the citizen legislature here in Oregon.
Yep.
The professional legislature starts to change that dynamic. And I am concerned about that. So, like I said, I'm of two minds about it, but I think there's room for reform in there. What we're facing now, though, is that Democrats pretty much where they are entrenched, they're really entrenched. And the people don't do any thinking. And so, and they get fed a steady stream of information that gets them to not think, so that they actually will vote, like we started the program with, for a walking corpse.
Yeah.
Because they won't know all the things that you and I can see with our own two eyes because it's been hidden. I just saw the other day there was a rundown of all the things, the sort of the cover up of what's been of Biden, of all the things that he has had as major gaffes, and these gaffes just weren't reported in a vast cross section of the media. They just don't even know that it happened. And this is like one of the most important jobs the media could have, to do that.
Well, it reminds me of in Russia under Joseph Stalin, they would paint you out of the picture if you made a mistake, right? And I just feel like that's exactly what the media has done for Biden is they just paint out his gaffes and his stumbles and his trips and his falls, and they try to make him look really, really good. And he's falling apart. Like, it's elder abuse.
I'm actually retire. But I think people can now see it, or at least they know it in their gut. And so the media is probably just hastening its own demise. The parts of the media that are trying to propagandize people to get them they're trying to do the impossible, which is make Joe Biden look like he's just a viable leader. And he's just not.
I have to tell you, I'm a little giddy. I'm a little excited because that tells you how much they don't like Gavin Newsom, right? Because I was hearing whispers. Hey, Gavin Newsom might run for president. They might put him in there. I'm like, could you imagine not liking Gavin Newsom so much that you would rather have a walking corpse, the crypt keeper being your president, over Gavin Newsom, semi-spry individual, a guy who is as slimy
or Kamala.
Yeah. They don't like her so much. I mean, and I'm really interested to see if he has her run as his running mate. I mean, it would be could you imagine? That's a sucker punch that I don't think she's ready to take. Like, so I'm interested to see what Kamala does in the weeks to come, because it would be hilarious to me if he ran with Kamala Harris again when she is the most unliked VP of all time.
Yeah, she's got records. Yeah. Oh. And you know that it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket whenever Biden actually sends her to some crisis situation. I mean, I think it's going to get to the point where we're going to make a lot of money in these markets that bet on events and what's going to happen, and all you have to do is just bet that whatever, that Kamala Harris, that it's going to go badly the minute she shows up, and all the idiots that are still like, I'm the Kamala Harris camp, I think it's going to be fine. It's like, no.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm trepidatious. We need to hold fast. There's a lot coming our way.
I wanted to just say real quick, I want to recognize a gentleman who's worked tirelessly at something that was finally brought to fruition. I think that was Friday or Saturday. Stephen Bates, who worked for the better part of a decade or more on getting a section in the state capitol grounds for a Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It was just one of the oversights, one of the places, one of the wars that just wasn't commemorated. And each section of the Capitol grounds has a set of veterans from a particular war that are commemorated. And I know that I would contact him, hey, Steven, you want to get involved in this? Like, I can't, I don't have time. I got to go do this other thing. And it was that's what he was doing, is he was working on this. And so on, I think it was Friday or Saturday, he finally they broke ground at the state capitol on this. And I got to see some of the coverage of this. I think I saw it on LinkedIn. Yeah, here it is. He's the president of the Vietnam War Memorial Fund here at the Oregon State Capitol, and it was last Friday that they broke ground at noon on the memorial. And so, there's a lot of things that people don't agree with in our society. I'm glad this is one of the things that a lot of people do agree. And even though it's still a heavy lift to pull stuff like this off, it's not easy. There's always these folks mostly donating their time behind the scenes to make it happen. And I just wanted to recognize Steve Bates for pulling it off. So congratulations, Steve. Good Republican, and but also a really fine American.
Well, I would like to say thank you as well. I appreciate all of your hard work. I didn't realize the name behind all of the hard work, but I really appreciate it. I appreciate our servicemen, both past, present, and those who are willing to serve in the future. And if you guys are interested in taking a look at part of that ceremony, I know that Representative James Heeb on his Facebook page, he has some videos up from when they're reading the plaques, and I think when they're also breaking ground on that as well. So go check that out on James Heeb's Facebook page, the representative for the Canby Sandy area. So go check that out. But yeah, I really appreciate that. I really wish that Oregon had a much larger kind of a veterans memorial. It's something that you see sporadic and in small places, but I think that we deeply owe those people just our deepest humble appreciation. And once again, thank you guys for all of your service out there.
Definitely. And let's make sure that our elected representatives do right by them. I just saw this VA put veteran safety at risk with bungled rollout of new health records platform. That's the same VA that's been ordered by the Brandon administration to use its systems to process illegal migrants that are coming into the country when we've got veterans waiting for treatment. And that alone, that story all by itself,
that should have been impeachment. That should have been impeachment right there. That's a misappropriation of government funds, and that right there should be enough to get the president impeached. I'm sorry, it's completely inappropriate. He stole money so that he could bring illegal immigrants in, and if you're a conspiracy theorist, he's most likely trying to shoehorn these people in to turn them into citizens so he votes the way that he wants them to.
Or get them into the census so that they can shift the numbers there too. And there's no doubt about that latter possibility because it already happened.
I mean, I just can't imagine any other reason why you would do this. But to me personally, it's waste, fraud, and abuse. These people who come all of this way, I totally understand wanting to be an American. Do it the right way. Do it the right way. Go back home until you get it done, and we will welcome you with open arms when you are a law-abiding citizen of this country. But until then, you don't belong here. No. And I'm sorry, this country is for people who believe in the rule of law.
Yeah, and actually are coming here to become Americans. Ultimately, that is really the what it should be about, and not to just be given entitlements and free stuff, and but that appreciate the country and the people who already live here. By the way, which is part of it.
I was listening to a podcast about people who were coming over the border, and they were talking about some of the schemes that were happening right across. So these people, they're getting cell phones, they're getting credit cards that are preloaded and everything like that. And then they also have attorneys that are sitting on the border as well saying, hey, do you want to get full benefits? You want to get full benefits? Well, all you have to do is be colorblind or missing a limb, and you can get Social Security benefits completely if you're colorblind or if you're blind in one eye. And so I didn't realize that was possible. I figured you would have to pay into the system. But if you think that Social Security is going to be there for you, it sure as heck isn't going to be there for me, especially if we let unfettered access to our Social Security system by people who never paid into it.
Yeah.
I'm so disillusioned as a young Republican with Social Security by the way that it's been able to be robbed. And the people who robbed our Social Security system, they're not wearing little bandit masks. They're not carrying big old bags of money with a dollar sign on them. It's the people who sit up in Capitol Hill. They have stolen that money from us, and we will never get recompense from it.
And they're not done. I can tell you that this might not come as much of a surprise, but it's a sad truth, is that Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, along with Representative Val Hoyle, that's why I know about it, are proposing what they call it is an act to create more Social Security benefits that they will fund by removing the ceiling on payroll taxes for people, so that instead of it being limited to the first 80 or 70 or 80,000, it's going to tax your entire income. This is what they're doing while we're all paying attention to the first spouse and Transgender Visibility Day. They're actually behind the scenes trying to push a bill that's literally going to make it so that that system that you're talking about that isn't going to be there for you, it's still not going to be there for you, but it's going to cost a lot more, and it's going to absolutely create an expanded socialist state is what it is.
And I have to tell you, that's how most young Republicans see it, is they see Social Security as a socialist experiment that is ultimately a failure. And I know that there's a lot of older Republicans that are a little fearful about, what us younger Republicans are going to have to do with the Social Security system. But if you have a solution for it, we're all ears. We don't want all of that money to just not be there. But with the way that the population is going, with the way that, the way that our government is acting, it's just not. It's gone.
And the trust fund is full of IOUs. There's no cash in there.
There's nothing in there.
No.
The people that are paying into it now are literally, it's going into the pockets of the pensioners of the state. And I don't know. We need to address it majorly, quickly.
Well, let's do that. Let's get out there in this election, and starting with May, because there's local races, there's primaries where you got to get behind your favorite candidate. Mm-hmm. And then let's fight all the way through into November and be victorious at every level, and watch what happens. It actually can be changed. Absolutely. It can be dramatically changed. That's what I love about America, among other things, is that it is a country that can renew itself. We've seen other parts of the world just decline and then eventually, collapse into squalor or just forever be kind of a lame. But no, the United States, we make comebacks. We blow away statistics and predictions, and we defy odds. And I think we can do that here. It's just a matter of whether all the people that watch this show and everybody that's out there that has an influence on the election process realizes that it's our time, and we could do it. It
is our time. And as Goonies, if you have any young Republicans out there, I sure would like to hear from them. Go take a look at our Young Republicans of Oregon website, our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. We want to get them involved in the political system. Even if they're not really that involved, I'm sure, we can get them involved on some level. So
it's contagious. Once you show one of these things, you're like, that was pretty darn good. And I'm done just sitting in front of just muttering under my voice how unhappy I am with what's going on. I actually got out there and I did something about it today. And there's very few things more invigorating than that, really. And I just put into the feed here yro.gop. They can also go. I'm going to put in the Facebook page, which is a good place to go get info. You guys have a Twitter, and now that's been freed by Mr. Musk, that's a good spot. There's a YouTube that you guys put out different content. You even have a podcast.
Yes, we do.
And I'm going to put, there's a link to that here. It's on Spotify, and you can check out what the Young Republicans are talking about. And it's not the college Republicans, even though people of college age can join it. It's the Young Republicans, which is under the age of 40, right?
Yep, absolutely.
But it's also the future Republicans. It is the incubator for our future senior leadership, which needs to be there.
If you guys want to get professional training on what it takes in order to be a professional political person, we get you the opportunity to do that. Flex those muscles when it comes to doing political work, whether it's registering people to vote, knock on doors, making phone calls, or being able to write or help write bills for your legislators. We give you all sorts of opportunities. We want to open the world up to you. And I just want to brag on my podcasting communication chair, Chris Gray. He's got a golden voice, and because of this, he actually was awarded in the top 30 for West Coast podcast of all time. So I'm pretty excited about that. We want to congratulate him. It's the top 30 for 2023. So
great. Well, congratulations to him. And that means now everybody's got to go check it out.
Check it out.
That's right. And share it. And everybody also please take this show and share it with everyone you can, because there's just so many people that don't know what we talked about tonight, and they don't know about the Young Republicans, and they can find out every time we have Stephen on. We make sure there's a spotlight on that, what younger Republicans are saying, thinking, feeling, but also what they can do. And so thank you for joining here tonight, Stephen, Chairman of the Young Republicans of Oregon.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
And thank you to all of you for watching. Again, we will see you tomorrow night on the next episode of The Captive Audience. I have no idea what tomorrow's show is going to be, but I can tell you there will be an enormous amount of news to cover, and probably a very interesting guest that I will go find and interview to make sure that all of you stay informed despite our captivity in Biden's America.